I'm going to try to be bringing you guys more science stuff for the report. I'm interested in it, and I think all anglers should take a second and be mildly interested in it. If you want to tune out, that's fine, do so now. But what we're going to look at today is actually how they track fish, how they get fish numbers. Before we get there, I guess we got to dial into where I'm getting this information or what I'm looking at. I've got a buddy, I went to high school with him. He is an angler, but he's gone over to the dark side. I think I talked about this 2 weeks ago. And he works for DFO. And now, tongue-in-cheek, we couldn't be happier. There's a lot of great guys and girls at DFO doing great work. And understanding that work is sort of something that I think anglers sometimes overlook. And so I circled up with him 2 weeks ago, and we talked a little bit about the work he was doing on the slide. He's one of the guys working there, getting fish over the barrier any way they can. And I touched base with him this week, and I asked him a couple of questions about numbers. We've been running numbers back and forth, and I realized that I didn't really understand where those numbers were coming from. So today we're going to talk or look at those numbers, those acoustic numbers specifically, and how the heck they get them and what do they mean. So every week I've been showing you guys pink numbers, and it was, where are they getting those from? How do they tell pinks from Chinook? How is this data even, 100% or close to scientific? And so he sat down and explained to me. He actually worked specifically on one of these stations before he moved over to the Chilliwack area. So he had a fair bit of knowledge on it. It was kind of cool to hear it from behind the scenes of what actually goes on to put those numbers together. And the first one is it's an acoustic tracking program. So basically they are firing a sonar, an acoustic sound that's going to be able to image what's going on under the water. And I thought this was all automated, but it's actually not. They've got a couple different kinds. He talked to me about those if you're interested in really geeking out. I think it was, what is it called? Yeah, Ditson and Aries style acoustic trackers. Again, I don't know if that's the right verbiage, but basically it fires out a sound signal in numerous different rays so they can actually build pictures from the sound bouncing back. And he said it's crazy. He says you can see fins, you can see tails, and you can see multiple fish, if not hundreds of fish, moving through an image. Now, how do they do it? I said, okay, well, they've got to have it automated. There's got to be a computer counting it. And he said, no, there's actually someone sitting there counting the fish as they go up. So here's the guy. He's sitting there, and he's literally counting them. But he doesn't have to count them all day, every day. What they do is they take a sample of every hour, 5, 10, 20 minutes, whatever it may be. He counts the fish for that period of time, and then they build a data model out of that. Now, don't worry, that sounds very subjective, and there's a lot of room for error. In the off season, in the winter, when they aren't doing anything, they go back to the tapes and they spot check it. So they go in and they count every single fish per hour and see if those counts match the predictions that they made in season to get those numbers. And they've been doing this for numerous years, so they've ironed out a lot of the error that goes in. Now, the other cool thing is how the heck do they tell the difference between species? Obviously, there's just a shape of a fish going across a scope. And he said it has to do with a couple things. So they look first at size. That's pretty simple. A fish over X size is probably going to be a Chinook, and a fish under X size is probably going to be a coho, a sockeye, or a pink. You could also say maybe a smaller fish might fall into that pink area. But this is where it got interesting. He said they can literally look at the speed of the fish and know that the average speed of a coho is X, the average speed of a pink is X, and the average speed of a sockeye is X. So again, they can get some data from that. The last one, the one that I thought was really cool, is because it's a sonar thing, they can actually track the thumps of the tail. And each species moves its tail slightly differently, and they've got a data model off that again, they can look at and say with a fair level of accuracy whether the fish they're seeing going across the scope is a pink, whether it is a coho, whether it's a Chinook, whether it's a sockeye. So I hope that sort of gives you an idea where all those numbers are coming from. It's kind of cool. And definitely food for thought when you're thinking about those numbers that you hear the politicians spout off, the scientists spout off, and some of the fishermen when they're talking about data.